Hello and welcome to GCS Today here on Channel 21, the program that brings you news and information from Gaston County Schools. I'm Todd Hagans. On today's episode, we talk with Principal Susan Redmond about the progress and excitement associated with a brand new campus for Belmont Middle School. Plus, we share my recent interview with Peter Jones of North Gaston High School to find out what it is like to be the Gaston County Teacher of the Year. Joining me on GCS today is Susan Redmond. She is the principal at Belmont Middle School. Susan, thank you so much for joining us on GCS today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, give us an update on the new Belmont Middle School campus. How are things progressing, and can you already envision yourself inside the new school?
Oh, it's definitely moving along. We're very excited. We are on target for the project to be completed in mid-January. They are finished the exterior of the building at this time, but we are still working on the grounds outside. The inside, they are beginning to clean windows, clean floors, just really moving along with the project. It's amazing every time you either drive by or those that have been inside of the building. It's gorgeous.
And everything will be ready for students and teachers to move in for next school year, opening in August 2021, correct?
Yes, we will greet our new students in August of 2021 on the new campus.
Okay, what is most exciting for you and exciting for your teachers and your students about getting a new school?
There's so many different things that are exciting about the new school. Just the whole process of our 8th graders, our 7th graders, and 6th graders. We've really tried to, the last couple years, as we're building a new school, try to focus on the fact that we have students in this building that won't go to the new building. So we want them to know this is their middle school experience. That's been a big push for us. But our 6th graders, as they came in the school this year, even though it looks very different, it's been exciting for them to be in the historical Belmont Middle School, the historical Belmont Junior High, Belmont High School, all of the history. I can only imagine if these walls could talk, what they would say. As I know I've had so many past graduates come through and share stories, and it's, talk about the courtyard or talking about the old media center or things that have happened in the building. But to hear them drive by the school, they're so excited just because it's just so different. I mean, it's new, it's so open. There's so much wonderful lighting. We have some traditional hardwood floors here that are gorgeous, but when you go into that classroom and it's that gray and those white hallways, it just pops, and it's beautiful. We're so excited.
As the principal, what have you enjoyed most about seeing the new school take shape over the past couple of years?
I think it's just the entire process, learning about the process and watching it from the ground up. I'm excited that when even the furniture starts to go in the spring and the early summer, just sitting there and going through that process, because when you go through each piece of the process of ordering pieces of furniture and talking about what your classroom is going to look like. In my traditional classroom I'm sitting in right now, and the way it's going to change, because obviously the rooms are going to be much bigger. The furniture is so much different than what the students have now. It's just exciting. It's nerve-wracking because, at the same time you're thinking, gosh, I'm hoping I'm making the right choices for those kids, not just for next year or the next year after that, but 20, 30 years down the road, making sure that they're going to love what we're doing in the new building.
And for our viewers who maybe, if they have been by or inside of the new Stanley Middle School,
oh yes,
the new Belmont Middle School is patterned after the new Stanley Middle School, and it's a beautiful school. So we already know that you are going to have a beautiful school.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. There's just a few changes going from the Stanley design to the Belmont Middle School design. The entryway, the main staircase is moved. Instead of having a 2-story media center, we have a 1-story media center, but we still have those high ceilings. I know when I went in there after they put the skylighting in there, it's breathtaking. It truly is.
Now, as you reminisce about this being the final year for teachers and students in the historic school there on Central Avenue in Belmont, what comes to mind? And What do you want the community to remember about the old school as you get ready to move to the new school?
So things that I think about when I'm just reminiscing, I think about last year when we had pep rallies or we had basketball games with the gym just packed from student to student. I look back at pictures that come across and it's just celebration. Things look so different this year that I really look back to last year of kind of being what the end of the school looks like right now. But in the courtyard, it's not unusual to have the art class out there doing activities or an ELA class out there reading books or doing even rotations for social studies classes. And we're still doing it this year, staying 6 foot distance. So it's one of those things that you take a lot of pride. Or even when we're having, I go back to end of year awards or different types of ceremonies we've had and listening to parents talk about, well, I went to school here and now my son's going to school here, or my grandmother went here and now my mom went here. And then the people had the realization of they've had the same teachers through Belmont Middle, because I've got several teachers that have been here for 20 plus years. And so to hear them, I think they're really excited about a new school. But I think at the same time, when I talk about if these walls could talk, there's that bittersweet piece because there is so much history in this building. I mean, it's an amazing building. It's gorgeous. For being 83 years old, it's still a beautiful facility.
Now, having a new Belmont Middle School, how important is this to the community? And what is your hope for the new school?
I know that we are Belmont and we are a tight-knit community, and we're a small community when you think about it, like where we are located right now. Our kids can go down to the park and go to the different shops and things like that. They've done things where they have rewards walking to McDonald's, and I think about those types of things. So we're very much community-based. Our community supports us, our parents, our neighbors, our businesses. But really going down the street, not that far, now that it's growing even more, you're starting to see more businesses. So I'm excited that I don't feel like we'll lose that community piece as much. I mean, they're going to have other opportunities. They might not walk to McDonald's, but they may walk to Hungry Howie's in the future. But I think our community is really excited. I know that, 83 years being in this building, their heart and soul is here, but I think they're really excited as they've seen the building go up and how it's transforming. I think we are just excited to get in there and see that final product, and then just keep that community spirit. I know that through all the years that we've been here, we're excited. The new building, we have our own sports complex. We've always been big partners and counted on our community schools as well as our community. We've used South Point, Stuart Kramer, Belmont Central. We've used the city of Belmont's fields for activities and things like that. So we will always be a big community school, but it is very exciting to be able to get some of those things that are going to just be ours now.
It really is a time for your community to remember the history that the building that you're currently in has given to the community over those 83 years, but also to look ahead to new traditions that will be established and celebrated with the brand new Belmont Middle School opening for students and teachers in August of 2021. We are looking forward to that big day when we can celebrate the brand new middle school for Belmont. Susan Redmond, the principal at Belmont Middle School, thank you so much for being with us here today on GCS Today.
Thank you for having me. Come see us in our new school.
You're watching GCS Today here on Channel 21. Stay tuned for more right after this.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
Welcome back to GCS Today. Several weeks ago, I had an opportunity to interview Peter Jones of North Gaston High School. Let's find out what he has to say about being this year's Gaston County Teacher of the Year. Joining me on GCS Today is Peter Jones. He is a science teacher at North Gaston High School and the current Gaston County Teacher of the Year. Peter, congratulations on winning the honor of Teacher of the Year.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
What is it like to be the Gaston County Teacher of the Year?
It took a while to get used to. I'm not used to getting big honors and awards like this, so I I got a lot of praise at school when I first came when it was first announced, and I didn't know how to react to it. I'm used to. I mean, I can usually handle small praises here and there, but a big one like this, it was overwhelming in that sense. But as I've sort of waded in it and sort of marinated in it, it has felt more. I feel more of the responsibility. I feel more of the need to make sure I put on a good face and make sure I'm, I don't want to say careful. I'm not trying to say careful, but I want to try and be the best example I can be.
Well, let's talk about the qualities for a Teacher of the Year. What do you think are some of the qualities that are necessary for someone to serve as the Teacher of the Year?
Well, I see it as I don't see myself as the best teacher. I think I know several teachers at my school alone that are wonderful teachers. I have teachers that my best friends teach at East Gaston. They're amazing. And I see this as an opportunity to be a good representative. Looking into to how the process moves forward, I'm thinking about how can I put forward the best platform to speak on behalf of teachers, to speak on behalf of the system, to enact some kind of change or speak on to some kind of change. And so I feel like the Teacher of the Year needs to be ready for that responsibility, ready to want that responsibility, and understand the ways to get to some kind of change. And I think a Teacher of the Year needs to understand the problems that our system faces today instead of just the basic ones or just the surface level problems. That there's a lot of problems that go deep into the system that I feel really need to be changed in a lot of ways. And I hope that as Teacher of the Year, if I move forward into the process, I hope that I can be some kind of vessel for that change. So.
And Peter, I think that people have expectations of a Teacher of the Year to be a representative of not only the teachers in Gaston County, but also to be a representative of the teaching profession. Do you feel like that this position has put you in that role of helping to help be an advocate for the teaching profession?
Absolutely. I feel like that I feel like this gave me a little more credibility when I come to talking about issues in education. I feel like one of the issues teachers face overall is that everybody has had a teacher in their life. So when we have had a lot of those professionals around us, we feel the sort of ability to speak on that career as if we have some sort of credibility to say that education is more than all these things that every teacher from elementary, kindergarten, all the way up to high school, you're molding these kids' minds and you're giving them possibly one last push, or you're giving them one way to go, one push in the right direction in life that a teacher can make or break a kid and how they take their future into. I know that my teachers have done that for me, and I know that I have friends that they were shaped by one teacher in particular. Oftentimes, they often think back to that one person that changed them and changed their perspective. And I think teaching is a lot more than just the information we teach. It's the empathy and the relationships we invest into those students.
So let's go into your classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what your classroom is like at North Gaston, and what approach do you take to making your classroom engaging for students?
I I think I really focus in on the relationship side of things, that I try to build a classroom that I can have all the bells and whistles on my walls and just everything all over the place that looks very engaging. But then if I just throw them packet after packet after packet, they're not really going to care. They're not going to really mind. They're not really going to want to try that much. But I really try to cultivate a relationship and open up to my students to an appropriate level, talk to them about ways I can connect my empathy to theirs. And so I really kind of focus on showing parts of myself that I know they'll connect with. I open up about, if I know kids these days are very, they deal with a lot of anxiety and depression. And so I try to open up about that with them. I try to show that I'm a very real person. When I make mistakes, I'm open about that. I don't try to shy away from the fact that, no, I never make mistakes, kids. But the opposite, when they see me mess up, I'm honest about that. And I kind of give them an example to show, when you make mistakes like this is how you should get through that. And I really focus on empathy and understanding them and showing that I get how they feel. It's a lot of one-to-one conversations when it comes down to it. It's a lot of checking in on them. And it's a lot of moving throughout the classroom. And I'm rarely sitting, I'll put it that way. I'm rarely sitting. I typically either in the front talking about something, or I'm available for discussion, or I'm walking around talking to the kids, trying to make sure that they understand that I'm here to help them through this, that if you really want to learn, there really isn't something like a stupid question when you're genuinely trying to learn.
With teaching science, what do you hope your students take away from your classroom in terms of the subject of science?
I hope that they take away the ability to combat misinformation. As the culture of our society has become so revolved around the internet, we have a lot of individuals out there that, read an article here, read an article there, and they suddenly think they know a lot about that subject. And I try to tell my kids the difference between being interested in science and a fan of science to being scientifically minded, to understand the full process and respect the entire community behind it. And I lately I've been really pushing hard and teaching them, don't engage with people that are just willfully ignorant. We use the flat earth example pretty often. I tell them oftentimes, you're going to encounter people in your life that are going to feel so confident about how incorrect they are that there's nothing you can say to change their mind. And so what I want for them is to be confident in how correct they can trust the scientific community. That we live in a world where a lot of people out there, not a lot, I should say, but a lot of the loud voices, that's a good way to put it, are often doubt the scientific community, doubt the motives of the scientific community, and they question it quite often. And the flat earth one is a great example of that. Anti-vaccination is a great example of that. And I try to tell the students that you can trust your doctor, your science teachers, that most of us really want what's best for the world and society, because we understand that the world works better when we work together, because the data shows that, and nature shows that, science shows that the law of thermodynamics states that, we're always trying to find a state of lower energy, because that's just stability. And I think a lot of people in the scientific community get that. However, I think with this large increase of misinformation in the world today, I think as science teachers, we're kind of on the front lines to combat that, to tell our kids, I've had kids talk about how they're afraid of vaccines, and I'm like, you have nothing to be afraid of. And even early on in this year with with COVID-19, always in the air. It's always in some level of discussion. It's always on our minds. I had a student early on in my school year this year just ask me tons about vaccines, and I was so happy to explain everything I possibly could. And I think those moments like that are what help these kids when they're adults. They'll hopefully remember them and think, no random person who's trying to tell me to question everything I've ever learned. I'm going to think back to my anchor. I'm going to think back to my science teachers who told me that what they taught me is right. And maybe I don't know what it is. Maybe I can't fully explain it, but they told me to take confidence in the fact that what they know, what is normal is right. And I think that's what causes a lot of the problems. I think a lot of people think that they're always told to question everything and question things, but if the work, we don't need to question if the earth is round. We don't need to question if vaccines are effective. We don't need to question a lot of things that don't really take us into the progressive, into the scientifically progressive direction, if that makes sense.
Amid the coronavirus pandemic, how have you adjusted to the new normal that schools and teachers and students are facing?
When we went into the hybrid model, I kind of just sort of, my philosophy has always been, when something new comes our way in the classroom, it's just, I can complain all day, but it's not going to go away. But for me personally, I've always just trying to have as much stability as I can, low energy as I can when it comes to my stress level. I try to just take it head on and front load as much as I can. So I went into the new system and I just kind of prepared for it, that just expecting that this is just going to be the way things are for right now. And I'm not going to hope and pray that we suddenly just go back to the old ways instantly. So I front loaded a lot of things, and it's been a slight adjustment. My first 9 weeks was a little bit of a rocky road in the sense of just how I wanted my classroom to look and how I wanted to get the my content across. But as I've gotten through it, I've seen a lot of positives to it. I've been able to work with kids that normally they would fall through the cracks, and I've been able to give them a little more attention. I've been able to how to put this? I've been able to deliver a little bit more information into my notes that I normally would. It has been a lot of work for me. I've been working at home a lot more than I'd like to be, more than I have in the past. But I know that that it is paying off, and I'm getting to tackle this information in a new way. I'm able to take these 2 days I have with each of these cohorts and really drive in a lot of my instruction into the content itself, but also me as well. That the downside of these 2 days a week for these kids was I was not going to be able to build enough relationship with them. I was not going to be able to connect with them as much, but I'm slowly finding that there's just different ways to do that. There's just different ways to try and get around those barriers. And I think I'm moving in a much more positive direction.
Okay, let's think about maybe a high school student
Mhm.
or a college student out there, and that student is thinking about becoming a teacher.
Mhm.
What would your advice be to that person?
When I was a student, it was the first thing they always tell you is you're going to get paid little, and which is true. But I try not to go into that direction with them. I try to say that this is a very important job. I try to hit on how crucial this job is, how it is important, how, your influence with you will often never see the rewards of your labor. And that has positives and negatives, because if you have an individual that comes into teaching and just doesn't really care, doesn't really try, and just shows them a bad example, they're not going to see the consequences of that. They're not going to see that they could have had actually a negative impact on their students because they didn't give them the best example they could have. And so I tell the kids that, and a few of the kids have talked about being a teacher, I said that this is about you are setting an example. You are planting seeds in the minds of young people, and you really do have this opportunity to put them into the correct path. I tell them how when they get to college, they're going to be around a lot of other people that have different opinions and different cultures and come from different backgrounds. And it's important to be prepared for that and to be ready to absorb that new information and not be resistant to it. And so I say that when it comes to teaching, have that in mind, that you are one of the most influential, important people in their lives outside of their family, depending on how long you see them. I try to tell kids that really do this. This isn't just some one-off job. This isn't just some job you can do between jobs. That this really is one of the most crucial jobs in our country and in the world. I mean, I think we've sort of taken teachers for granted for a long time. I think we just expect them to work as hard as they do with the little compensation they get. And I say that, just because the world's going to, if you decide to be a teacher, just because the world's going to not really appreciate you as much as it should, that doesn't mean that you're not important. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have an impact. And when you do get that impact, it kind of makes you forget about all the negatives.
We've heard it said before, teaching is more than a job. It really is a calling.
Yeah.
And you have an opportunity in front of you to influence students and to be a positive in their lives and to help them and to guide them. And certainly we know that that is what you're doing in your classroom, and we appreciate all that you are doing in your classroom at North Gaston. And we certainly congratulate you on being named the Gaston County Teacher of the Year. It's a well-deserved honor, and
Thank you very much.
we are so glad to have you representing the teaching profession here in Gaston County. Peter Jones, science teacher at North Gaston High School, we thank you for being with us here today on GCS Today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Higgins. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for watching GCS Today here on Channel 21. Before we go, we would like to remind you to visit the Gaston County Schools website to read news articles about our schools, our students, and our teachers. And we encourage you to download the Gaston County Schools mobile app to your device. It's free in the Apple and Google online stores, and it is your one-stop source for news and information about our schools. Also, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and watch us on YouTube and right here on Channel 21. Stay tuned to Channel 21 for the latest news and information from Gaston County Schools. For GCS Today, I'm Todd Higgins. We look forward to seeing you next time.